You do not know why you came here tonight. It is because I wished you here. Wished you here to warn you. I see a great house in ruin. Bats flying in and out of broken windows. Alucard is not his name. You must stop him before death comes to Dark Oaks. I see you marrying a corpse, living in a grave. I see. Master, it's sundown. 5 more minutes. Hi, I'm Dracula Jr. In 1931, Universal Studios released the movie starring dear old dad, Dracula. In 1936, they did my sister, Dracula's daughter. Finally, in good old 1943, they got to me. So here's my story, Son of Dracula. And no, I'm not going to school. In the 1940s, Universal Studios was rebooting all their old horror properties from the 30s. There were new Frankenstein movies, new Mummy movies, and new Invisible Men. Finally, in 1943, they got around to doing a new Dracula sequel. Their main horror writer of the 40s, Kurt Sielmach, who was a German Jew who escaped Nazi Germany, came up with the story. And then there was the question of who would play the Count. Original Dracula star Bela Lugosi had hoped it would be him. He needed the money and the career boost. Plus, no one could play the role like he could. However, after Bela passed out on the set of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and gave a seemingly bad performance as the monster, I say seemingly because this was largely a result of the studio cutting out his dialogue and all references to the monster being blind, Universal had even less interest in pursuing him. Instead, Universal was putting their energy into building up their new heir to the horror throne, the son of their greatest silent horror star Lon Chaney Jr. And with the addition of Dracula, he would be the only Universal horror actor to have played all 4 of their main monsters. Robert Sielmach, Kurt Sielmach's brother, was brought on to direct, and 2 things happened. His brother Kurt was immediately taken off the project. The 2 brothers had a professional rivalry ever since they lived in Germany. And in Kurt's words, Robert wanted to be the only Sielmach around. This is why Kurt did the original story and not the screenplay. Also, Robert Sielmach, who later developed a reputation as a great film noir director, brought those film noir qualities that he was into to this movie, making this Dracula picture unlike any other. Catherine has invited Count Alucard to the plantation Dark Oaks in Louisiana. Catherine is engaged to be married to Frank, not that Frank, and tells him that no matter what happens, to always trust her. Count Alucard finally arrives, and as all of you good spellers have figured out, he's actually Count Dracula! Dracula and Catherine are married, but Frank confronts them and shoots Alucard, but the bullet goes right through him and kills Catherine. Frank confesses to murder and is put in jail. Catherine rises a vampire. And Dracula thinks they'll be undead together forever. But Catherine materializes in Frank's cell and instructs Frank how to destroy Dracula, so that she and Frank will be the ones together for all eternity. Meanwhile, Dr. Harry Brewster is on to Dracula and enlists vampire expert Professor Laszlo for help. What makes Son of Dracula so unusual, you lousy dames, is how 1940s it is, both in terms of its film noir and pro-American sensibilities. Film noir is a type of crime drama that was huge in the 40s. They had plot twists, femme fatales, and German expressionism lighting. Universal had already been using this lighting style in their horror films, so visually, these genres are a perfect match. As a film noir picture, when we first meet Catherine, we expect her to be an ordinary female blood bank, who's acting strangely because she's already under the spell of Dracula. But as the plot unravels, we find out she's a femme fatale. Early on, Dracula kills her father, but we figure out that it was under her instructions, so that she could inherit Dark Oaks. She tricks Dracula into drinking her blood, so that she'll become a vampire, but as soon as his cape is turned, she goes to Frank, zaps him so that he's under her power, and tells him to kill Dracula, so that her and Frank will be the ones together at Dark Oaks. Do you mean you deliberately planned this? You married him so you would become so you and I would attain immortality, yes. But even if it would work, do you expect me to agree to anything so fantastic? You have no choice. I've taken the first step while you were sleeping. I can't do it! I already told you, you have no choice. It's such a fantastic twist that you never see coming. They also go film noir with Frank too, because there's a whole subplot of him not knowing did he kill Catherine or not, which absolutely drives him batty. Harry, I killed Kay! It's all mixed up, but I know I shot her twice! Harry, am I insane? Could I have shot Alucard and killed her without hurting him? The leading man and the leading lady of Universal horror films are usually pretty forgettable characters, especially by the 40s. But by bringing in these film noir elements, like the femme fatale and the crime, it gives these characters added dimension that you wouldn't normally expect. Along with the film noir making this movie so 40s, so does how pro-American it is. During World War II, it was very important for American films to be patriotic. So instead of Dracula going to England like he did in the original, this time he goes to America. In terms of mood, it's no Europe, but they picked the perfect place in the US, Louisiana. The plantation has this wonderful southern gothic feel, and then there's the swamp, which has that atmosphere of weirdness, decay, and horror. Along with the setting, there are also several lines meant to give a boost to the American ego. You are right. I am here because this is a young and virile race, not dry and decadent like ours. They have what I want, what I need, what I must have. They don't go too overboard with that, so it's not that distracting. Plus, it makes Dracula seem like a threat to the entire nation, even though he only kills 2 people. Along with the 40s making the film unique, so does its Count Dracula, aka Count Alucard, played by Lon Chaney Jr. Many feel that casting Lon Chaney Jr. as Dracula had pretty hairy results. Now, I would never call him my favorite, but I don't think he bites. One of the grooviest aspects is he gets to show off his vampire powers. He turns into a bat. He turns into mist like Dracula does in the book. And he does this neat effect where he glides on his coffin across the swamp. One of Chaney's strengths as an actor is in being sympathetic. Unfortunately, they don't tap into it enough here. But during the love scene between him and Catherine, you really believe he loves her, which is essential for the plot. Now, as far as being spooky, in some of the lines he sounds menacing, and in others he doesn't. But where he really excels is as a physical threat. Lon was huge and could look mean, and I love it when he throws people around. And in a way, you could see his performance as a predecessor to the physical powerhouse of Christopher Lee. Well, it is seldom my enemies are so accommodating. If you had learned more about me, you wouldn't have come till after sunrise. Now it is not I who will be destroyed, but you, Frank. Unfortunately, there are 2 hurdles that were impossible for him to overcome. Number 1, Bela Lugosi, yes you, was so great in that role. It's impossible to top him or even match him. Lon does his own thing, but being really born in Transylvania like Bela Lugosi gives off such a scarier ambiance than being born in Oklahoma City. Secondly, Lon's Dracula can't be the ultimate Prince of Darkness because he's a patsy being tricked by Catherine. So no matter what he does, he seems like an idiot. He's not the main bad guy of the story. The real villain is Catherine, played by Louise Albertine. Catherine is into telepathy, the supernatural, and all things morbid. And as the movie explains, morbid people have a fear of death, which is why she wants to become a vampire. She looks like one too, with her dark hair and pale skin. She's cunning and is able to manipulate both Dracula and Frank. She's calm and otherworldly, which is perfect for someone into death. And it's perfect for a vampire, the living dead. But it's also perfect for a femme fatale, because it's impossible to read her. So we're tricked by her, just like Dracula. Along with the cast making the movie interesting, so do the innovations in filmmaking. The original Dracula was made in 1930, then released in 1931. And Son of Dracula was made in 1943. And in those early days of sound, 13 years made the world of difference. While Dracula and Renfield are spooktacular, the original film is often stagey, both in its direction and its acting style. This approach was perfectly acceptable in 1931. However, by 1943, screen acting had gotten more natural, movies were shot in more dynamic ways, and unlike the original, they now had music scores. Son of Dracula also uses more special effects, including Universal's first on-screen man-to-bat transformation. By today's standards, these effects are no longer terrifying, but they're well done and still groovy to look at. The original Dracula and even Dracula's Daughter are more haunting films, but Son of Dracula is the most fun. And if you're not used to old movies, I think it's the easiest one to get into. Son of Dracula was a hit, and Lon Chaney Jr. kept turning out horror movie after horror movie. Bela Lugosi was always annoyed that he missed out on Son of Dracula. However, he did get to star in Columbia's unofficial Dracula sequel, Return of the Vampire, which was released the following year. Son of Dracula's creation of Dracula's alias Count Alucard has actually stuck with the character and has been used in other movies, comic books, and even video games. So I give Son of Dracula 3 tricky dames out of 4. And now I'm going to stay up late, drink blood, and eat Cheetos. I don't care if I get it on the couch. Renfield will clean it up.